Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valegewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valegewelryworkshops.co.uk, or even phone them at 07789 794248. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Creative Space podcast, and I think this is the first one of 2024. So happy new year everyone, and welcome back. I'm glad you can all join me on this incredible journey through 2024 of other guests coming on to the show. Now this one today is a bit of a special one for me because I've watched this woman growing up. I've seen her in many films, especially in The Fog, especially in Escape from New York, most of John Carpenter's films, and she's also in Swamp Thing. She's been in many films, many TV shows, and she is none other than Adrienne Barbaeu. Adrienne Barbaeu and I sit down to talk about her career, and also we talk about a little glimpse of professional wrestling, because there was a little cheeky fun fact of her involvement in wrestling, especially with the one and only Gorgeous George. But I'm not going to go into it any more further because I want you guys to listen out. So without further ado, it's me and Adrienne Barbaeu on Creative Space Podcast. Now, it's such a pleasure to meet you because, like I said, my fiance is a fan of Grease, and when I said I was going to speak to the original Rizzo, she was like, "Oh my God, you're going to speak to her?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I spoke to my grandfather, and he loves you in The Fog and a few other films that you've been in. So I think a lot of people were saying to me, staying up at 12 at midnight here, even though it's 4 o'clock over there, it's going to be worth it.
Oh, well, I appreciate you staying awake.
It's an absolute pleasure. And one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you straight away is nothing to actually do with theater, TV, film. Now, thing is with me, I'm a huge professional wrestling fan, and I love my wrestling, and I was doing a lot. I was trying to dig deep into the research, and I found on IMDb that you were Miss Wrestling for Big Time Wrestling, and there was an incident with one of the all-time greats back in the day was with Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George. Yes, Reese. I, you know, All I can tell you is he threw a chair at me. I don't remember. I was still in high school,
Mm,
and I don't know how this job came about. My mother was a big wrestling fan,
mm,
and she used to date wrestlers even, but somehow she arranged for me to and drove me from where we lived in San Jose, California, which is at sort of the base of the San Francisco Bay, up to San Francisco every Friday night. I think it was Channel 18, and they had professional wrestling, and I was Miss Wrestling, which meant I walked around in a rather skimpy, for those days,
mm,
leotard, probably, or bathing suit. I don't know what it was. In between the rounds, and carried a placard that said round one or round two or whatever
mm.
it was. Um, and I couldn't tell you why. I'm sure it was showmanship, but at some point, Gorgeous George picked up a chair and threw it at me. He didn't hit me. Very few people know anything about that part of my career.
Well, it just happened to when I was doing the research, and it just sort of popped up on IMDb, and I thought, no way,
Yeah,
really?
way.
And when I think of Gorgeous George, I'm being a professional wrestling fan. I was only first introduced about Gorgeous George when he got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and that's when I obviously being of course going and seeing it again, being a wrestling fan, you just look into his matches, and I was like, oh man, what an incredible career, and especially at that time, the way he carried himself. And then I saw your name, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna ask this question. I'm
Okay.
gonna kick this one right off. Um,
We're talking about 1963, maybe
1960.
1962. It's long before you were around.
Oh, well, how old? My grandfather would have been 12, 11, 12, something like that,
Oh.
around that. So I think you've been loving life for there. What made you want to go into acting? What was the spark for you?
You know, I suspect that it was my mother. I mean, I she started me taking ballet when I was 3 years old. I think because every little girl was supposed to take ballet. And by the time I was 12, I absolutely hated it. But at some point, maybe around fifth grade, someone said to her, Adrienne has a really nice voice. You should give her singing lessons or something. So I started taking singing lessons. And I think I had done a couple of things maybe in junior high school, but when I was 15, I was working in a beauty salon as taking, making appointments and sweeping up dirty hair and all of that. And one of the clientele was on the board of directors for it was it was considered a community theater in San Jose, California, but it was a multi-million dollar organization, and they did very lavish productions for which they charged. Um, and we were just making small talk, and she said, "Oh, we're doing The King and I next, and we're holding auditions." And my boss said, "Well, Adrienne sings. You should go and audition." And okay, I don't know. And so I went and auditioned, and they hired me to play Tuck Tim. And so that was sort of the beginning of my being on stage, in addition to what I was doing in high school, in a sort of, I can't even call it a semi-professional, but in a community theater, but a very large, well-run community theater. And I started doing, all of the productions of the San Jose Civic Light Opera. And then just as I was graduating high school, the San Jose Civic Light Opera had a musical comedy review. that they had auditioned and put together, and I was part of that. We sang and danced songs from all the different musicals. And we applied to the State Department, and we were chosen to go overseas to the Southeast Asia to entertain the armed forces. So a week after I graduated high school, I got on my first plane. I'd never flown before, and flew to Yokohama, Japan, and then proceeded to do 3 months of this touring company, this musical comedy review, all over. We were on the DMZ when they were fighting, when they were shooting, and they shot and killed 3 GIs who had been at our performance. We were up in the in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan, Okinawa, an atomic testing center called Johnston Island, and we got paid $7 a day, and did this for 3 months, and then I came back and I started college about film and television. I was not raised, I was not a TV baby or anything like that. But so I started college, and then I did another Civic Light Opera production with a woman who had been in New York. She had been in an off-Broadway play or musical. And she said to me, you ought to go to New York and at least study and see if you could make this work. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I will. And so I went to New York. I didn't know a soul. I was 19. And I figured, I'll try and audition. And if nothing happens by the time I'm 25, I'll go back to school and get my degree and I'll teach acting. But by the time I was 25, I was working on Broadway, and it just went from there.
In one of your, when it came to Broadway, you're in obviously the two of the biggest musicals. Well, I say one of the biggest, of course, with when we mention Grease, and of course you played Rizzo. When you first had that role, and obviously you got nominated for a Tony Award, you made the part your own. When Grease first came about, what was your initial impression about the musical? Did you think that it was going to be a success? Did you think that it was just going to not last long? What was your first response to the production or the musical itself?
I don't know if I thought in terms of what was going to happen with it. I remember when I got the audition or the interview with the director, I felt like I was in my element, because 60s rock and roll was what I knew. I'm not a big musical comedy fan, although the first musical I did on Broadway was Fiddler on the Roof, and I do love Fiddler, but to be able to sing rock and roll, 60s rock and roll, or 50s rock and roll, that's where I sort of really felt comfortable. The other answer to your question is, when Grease opened, we did not get good reviews. It looked like we were not going to survive even a week. And I remember one of the other actors, crying backstage saying, I can't have another flop. I just can't have another flop. But the producers saw what they called a little pilot light in the box office, just based on word of mouth. And because the reviews were not good, they didn't get it. The New York Times, which is in those days was the make or break newspaper, didn't understand it at all. Didn't know why it was called Grease. He thought he didn't get it at all. But the producers stayed with it. They raised some more money. They actually gave the cast an opportunity to buy a share in the musical, and I had $500, but it was my emergency medical medical you know fund in case anything ever happened. And so none of us bought shares, which has proven to be one of the all-time stupid moves of our lives. But they kept it open and word of mouth, and it started to build. And now, of course, it's, you know, it's known
Oh, it's a
worldwide.
cult
I
history, but yeah, cult
Yes,
following
yes.
everything.
I just finished about a year ago. We just released a book called Grease Tell Me More, Tell Me More, that I co-authored and co-edited with the director of the show and one of the producers of the show. And it is a collection of stories from all the actors who appeared in the original Broadway production, in the National Company, in the London Company, everyone from Patrick Swayze to John Travolta to Richard Gere to Mary Lou Henner, Treat Williams, all contributed really wonderful, funny and moving and revealing stories about their experiences, either auditioning or on the road or backstage or getting the job or maybe losing the job. And so it's been on my mind the last couple of years. It was just our 50th anniversary in 1972. So we released this book in honor of the 50th anniversary.
It's just, when you said about how the New York Times gave it a negative review, and you were offered to put shares in, it just reminded me so much of what happened in the West End when, musicals like Les Miserables first came out, and Les Mis was slammed by the critics, completely hated it. Yet for some reason now it's become one of the all-time greats of
Yes,
musicals. And
yes.
we watched, me and my grandfather watched a documentary, or documentaries, because it was like a 3 episode documentary about the stories of musicals in the West End. And uh, when we were watching it, it was always like a bit of a pattern going on, where if the critics hated it, the musical would last forever. If the critics loved it, it wouldn't last forever. And my grandma just sat there and went, well, clearly they fucking know what they're talking about then. I was like, oh,
It's
I was
time
like,
to
oh,
stop reading the critics.
yeah.
You know, just talk to people who've been to see it.
Did you I'm trying to think of the actress' name now? Was it Stockard Channing? If I'm right in saying, did
Stoppard
she?
Channing did the role of Rizzo in the movie.
Yeah,
Yes.
did she ever come to you for advice, or did anyone who played Rizzo after you? Did anyone come to you for advice, because obviously you were the original Rizzo?
No, no. I'm just trying to think. I know there was one story of one actress who did it on stage who did not want to do what the director had directed me to do. She was opposed to that, and I can't even it's just a vague memory in my mind. But no, by the time they did the movie, well, we were all too old to even be doing the show when we did it. We were not teenagers. But by the time they did the movie, I was doing Maude on television, and Stoddard's manager was Alan Carr, who produced the film. And I think she gave a really great audition and convinced him to hire her. They never approached me at all, but I was too old. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how many of them look like they're teenagers. But no, no one came to me for advice.
When you
And
mentioned
I'm not sure, I could have given them one piece of advice, which
what's
was because when we first started, Rizzo wasn't working. And And the director said to me one day, I guess it's something that I do about or to myself, but he said, laugh, have her laugh at herself. When she's this is really broad strokes, but not just when she's delivering lines, but because I think it was something he saw that I did, and it sort of turned her around, or it helped me find her. That she would say something, and then it was like, the guy was using a thing, but it broke. I mean, it was like there was a sort of she found the humor in what she was saying. I think we're talking 52 years ago, Reese. It's hard for me to remember.
It's absolutely no problem. And funny enough, I got to tell you something. I've just not long ago spoken to Dee Wallace, and she. It was funny because when you said Reese, I was like, yes, you got my name right. Because Dee Wallace, all she kept calling me was Rice, and I was
Oh
like,
no! Oh
and I was
no!
like, I just sat there. And I'm thinking, do I have the goal and energy to actually turn around and say it's Reese Dee? But okay.
Oh.
But in the end,
You know what you should have done? You should
what's
have said,
that?
well, my grandfather said Reese when you blah 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 and pronounced it correctly. And maybe she would have heard it. She's got a good ear. But I watch a lot of actually I watch several television series from Wales. And a lot of times they will have the uh the dialogue in Welsh on the
Mm.
screen. And I mean, come on, that's asking a lot for an American to try and figure out how to say any of those words. Oh, let me shut this thing off or turn this sound down. I'm sorry, it's my answering machine.
It's okay. It's not a problem.
It'll shut off in just a second.
Yeah, it's it is funny because we've from some of the guests I've had on the show from the States, and they always ask me about the Welsh language and a lot of other things. And the thing and the issue, whether you call it an issue or you call it whatever, the thing about Wales is that I think half of the population of Wales do not speak the native tongue anyway. Do not
Mm.
speak Welsh. And it's really refreshing to see, someone like Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, obviously from both America and Canada, respectively, that they're trying to market the Welsh language and try to get it out there to the world, which is, for some people it's admirable, it's respectful, but at the same time, some fellow Welshmen would just turn around and go, yeah, why? And it does leave a lot of questions, but then at the same time, if it gets Wales out there, then that's absolutely fine. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
it
My problem is not in speaking it, it is in reading it.
yeah,
I just haven't taken the time yet to research and understand how a word that is spelled, I don't know, GYH something, I can't remember what I was just looking at the other day, how it's pronounced. That's
yeah.
all.
Oh, it is interesting because it's like uh how can I put it? It's like in the Welsh alphabet, you've got two D's, and it's pronounced like as if you're saying the word the. You're seeing it
Mm,
like like that,
mm,
and then you've got
mm.
two L's. It's almost as like you got a bit of a lisp. You got to go like that, as if you
Okay.
got a lisp. It's and then I've had one person come up to me and when I'm doing the podcast, and they said, "Oh, I've heard of Wales. I heard you got that longest name," and I thought, "Oh, here we go." And it was that Llanfair Pwll Gwyngyll Go Gelych Rhwyndro Bachantasio Go Go Goch, the
Yes.
longest Welsh, and it's just
Yeah.
oh. Going on to Maude or Maud as we call it here, and I'll say Maude because I like saying it that way. Of course, I will be completely honest with you, Adrian. I have not seen Maude. I've only seen snippets of it,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to know. what was it like to do that television show, especially and educate me in some ways of how big it was back then and how big it is now, especially with someone like Bea Arthur, leading the cast. And obviously, you probably had loads and loads of questions about Bea Arthur, saying, "Oh, what was she like? What was your relationship like with her, etc., etc." Which I do have a question about. But it's for me, it was like I just wanted to know from you personally, um, what was it like to be on that television show, and also educate me on what was the show about.
The show was about social issues. It was about making people laugh and making people think. It was it was a spin-off of All in the Family. I don't know if you've ever seen All in the Family.
Think I have. Do you know what? There's so many shows that I've seen, and I'm like,
Yeah.
have I seen it?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, All in the Family was Norman Lear's breakout
Mm.
hit. And and they covered a lot of topics that we then went on to cover. But All in the Family was more about, the head of the family was a real racist. I mean, and so it was political in that way. Maude was a very liberal, three-time divorced, four-time married woman of a certain age, very outspoken, um, with her daughter who lived with her, who was also divorced. And this was in 1972 when you didn't see very many divorced families or divorced women or divorced single mothers with their child or anything. But primarily, I mean, we dealt with, well, probably the most current episodes, or the ones that get the most acknowledgement right now, seeing as how the United States, at least, has gone so far backwards socially. Uh, we did a two-parter wherein Maude, who is 48 years old, finds out she's pregnant. And it was right after Roe v. Wade was passed. Abortion was legal. And it was a two-parter on what decision she was going to make for herself and her family. And it was so controversial that about 100 stations throughout the country refused to air it. But it was also very funny. And that was what Norman Lear brought to all of his shows. We dealt with homosexuality, we dealt with medical malpractice, we dealt with manic depression, we dealt with racism, we dealt with abortion, you name it. We hit every social issue, you know, on the docket, but in a way that the show stayed in the top 10 for 6 years. Maybe by the end of the sixth year, we were in the top 20. And that's why we went off the air, because Bea was tired and she was going through some uh, family things, and she wanted to go out strong. But it was a huge success, and people just laughed. And when they're laughing, maybe they're thinking, maybe it's not changing their mind, maybe it is, but it's opening their mind at least, and making them laugh. And your question about B, she had been a stage star before we did Maude. She had done, maybe she'd done some television, but it wasn't until Golden Girls that, I mean, everybody knew Bea from, most people that you talk to, especially younger people, know Bea from Golden Girls.
Mm.
That came after Maude. So when we all worked together, she started out as a brilliant comedian, and then her acknowledgement came as the show became more and more successful. A lot of people didn't like the character, But because she was strong, she
Mm.
but and a lot of people said, "Oh my gosh, she reminds me of my grandmother. She reminds me of my aunt. My mother is like that." And
What
she
was
was
the
wonderful
yeah?
to work with. I mean, it was a wonderful job for me. It was just 6 years of going every day to be with my family.
Mm.
I loved every single one of the cast. We had it was a great cast, and we were like a family.
Mm. What is the difference then with Bea Arthur as the actress and then Bea Arthur as the person? What would you say is the the biggest difference between the two?
Well, I suppose it depends on which role you're asking about for her as an actress. But as a person, Bea was a very, very homebody. She did not take part in the Hollywood elite. You'd never find her out at parties and things like that, or making appearances or anything like that. Completely committed to PETA, to the animal rights, had two sons that she loved more than anything, and two German shepherds that she loved more than anything. And really, at least my experience of her was she spent her home time cooking. She was a great cook. I still make her Chinese chicken salad. She taught me to eat hard-boiled eggs with Tabasco sauce on them. And um, she's just very giving as an actress. What was important was the show, not her success. If I'm explaining that right,
Mm.
she would do anything to make the words on the page better. It didn't matter if she was supposed to be giving the joke. She would immediately hand it off to someone else if she thought that was going to work better for the show. It was all about the words on the page and the script
Mm.
and the production. It was not about Bea. She was not a star with in quotes.
Mm. There was this one thing. The reason why I wanted to mention Bea Arthur is obviously, of course, that I've seen Golden Girls on Disney Plus and everything. But one of the things that I've noticed through research is her friendship with Angela Lansbury, and I noticed that you did Murder She Wrote twice. You did two
Yes,
episodes,
yes,
and
yes.
I really wanted to know about the working relationship that you had with Angela Lansbury on those two episodes that you did. I mean, the Angela Lansbury, I mean, here in the UK, she's just highly, highly celebrated, absolutely adored. And I'm not saying that there's like a comparison in the States and in the UK of where she loved more. She was just loved everywhere. But I just really
Everywhere.
wanted to know what was it like working with Dame Angela Lansbury?
She was lovely. She was just lovely. I mean, I didn't, I mean, I was with B for 6 years. I was with
Mm,
Angela for 2 weeks, over a period of many, many months. But she was just lovely. She was everything you would expect her to be. She was a penultimate actress. In fact, I got to visit B and Angela on the set of Mame. Didn't Angela do Mame, or was it Lucille Ball?
oh,
The
God, you're talking.
movie. Didn't
Yeah,
Angela?
I'm gonna have a look now. You're making me want to do some research now again.
Isn't that terrible? I mean, I remember visiting B with Lucy and B with Angela, and I'm not sure why
This
I
is
would
in
have been
Maine, did you
visiting
say?
Mame. Yeah,
Yeah, Maine. The film movie. There we go. I'm just having a double check now. Bea Arthur, Lucille Ball.
that was the movie. But
Yeah.
Angela did the musical. She did the
Okay.
stage musical. And
Yeah, didn't
what? But
yeah, didn't the two
yeah,
of them, didn't the two of them did like because I remember watching the video and I think the two of them did like a duet together on the Tony Awards or something
yes,
like that. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And maybe B was in the stage production. I don't remember. I just remember I remember going to see both of them and hanging out with them. But she was lovely too. She really was. And the second episode that I did, I think the one about, I don't remember if it was the one about the jailbreak or the one about the TV thing. I think it was the jailbreak. Her son, Anthony Shaw, it was his, I believe it was his first directorial, uh, uh, first time directing, whether it was his first time directing that TV show or a TV show, I don't know. But so I got a chance to work with her son as well, with Angela's son. Yeah, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah. Well, another person I got to mention as well, and it was only for one episode, but I loved this show because growing up, I mean, I was brought up by my grandparents. So, I mean, I watched obviously a lot of British shows, but Murder She Wrote was one of them across the pond, and another one was Diagnosis Murder with Dick Van Dyke.
Oh,
And and I noticed that you did an episode in Diagnosis Murder, and I just wanted to know what was it like to have the opportunity to work with Dick Van Dyke and also his son is as well. And he only just turned 98, and I was thought,
I know. Isn't that
God
amazing?
Almighty.
I know. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you because I really don't remember. I really don't remember. I don't even remember being on the set of that show. I don't remember the storyline. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. No, I thought it just long shot in the dark. Get that one out there because it's Dick Van
If it
Dyke.
had been bad, I might have remembered. So I know it was good, but I don't remember any specifics.
um, but you have been fortunate to work with so many people.
Yes, I
I mean,
have.
you have been very fortunate. I
Sir
mean,
Roger Moore. I got to work with Sir Roger Moore. I mean,
Roger
imagine
Moore.
that. That was my idol.
Was he charming as people say?
It was charming. He was charming. And there was the day when we were all out on the at the desert and the air conditioning in his trailer broke. And he asked if he could come sit in my trailer. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to talk to Roger Moore about? Oh my God. I was like, and we ended up talking about the state of the California educational system, I think, if I remember correctly. But oh, I mean, I was starstruck. Roger Moore, you know.
Oh God, he didn't do. Did you get him to do the Bond, James Bond?
No, I never asked him that.
Oh,
But
Adrian, come on.
I will say throughout the entire movie, if I remember correctly, he was wearing a white suit. And that suit, no matter how many hours we shot out in the middle of the desert with the sand and the dust and the dirt, that suit was always pristine. It was.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start, then look no further than the Veil Jewelry Workshops. Veil Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.veiljewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@veiljewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Another thing as well with you is you're very well known to do horror and science fiction films. And you work with, obviously, of course, you worked with your then husband, partner, John Carpenter. You did a film with Wes Craven, which was Swamp Thing. And you did Creepshow, which I loved, by the way. I love Creepshow, with George A. Romero. You worked with some of horror's biggest names, whether it be working with them as a performing with them or working with them as a director. Was you worried that, just looking back now, was you ever concerned that because you did a load of horror films, that was you ever worried about typecasting? And when I say typecasting, it's like you think of some actors who've mainly done horror films and they go, oh, it's a bit like Robert Englund, who's, oh yeah, he played Freddy Krueger, he's the actor who does a lot of horror films. Was you ever concerned about that, or was you just really proud that you were just fortunate to be in these films?
I was happy to be working. But, I was typecast much earlier than that. I mean, when I first started out, I was a musical comedy actress. When I got the first television show, then I was a TV comedian. Nobody would see me to do drama until I did a Quincy with Jack Klugman. That was the first dramatic thing I did. Then suddenly, oh, she can do drama. And then in those days, if you were on a hit television show, and we were on Maude from 1972 to 1978, even by 1978, if you were on a hit television show, you could not get seen for a film. The prevailing thought process was nobody's going to pay to see her in the theater if they can see her for free every night on Tuesdays. It was really Johnny Travolta who started to change that, because he had been doing, what was that comedy series, Welcome Back, Kotter, or no, I don't know what he did. The ground, I don't know. Anyway, he was on a TV show, but he got Saturday Night Fever. I think that's what, and
yeah,
sort of, but if John Carpenter hadn't offered me The Fog, because we had done another film together for television, and that's how we met, I don't know how long it would have been before I might have even done a film. But because The Fog was my first film, and then because I ended up married to John, then they started saying, oh, she can do that, she can do that, and I can do it. So, so they came to me. In the middle of all of that, I did Cannonball Run, which is a comedy, but I sort of got established for the horror genre. And I've done many things since. Carnival for HBO being one of my all-time favorite jobs. But hey, it gave me, it gave me an incredible career. And then whenever I just took whatever came along, if I wanted to do it. I wrote a memoir back in 2006, I think it was. There's an updated version on Kindle. I brought it up to date in 2013 or so. But in it, one of the chapters is about my going to Moscow to do what I called the Rat Movie, which was a a horror film based on a Bram Stoker novella for Showtime. Uh, Me and 50 rats. and, but I start the chapter by saying, whenever a producer says, oh, we couldn't get so and so for that role, I think to myself, make the offer. You never know why an actor will take a job. And I've taken jobs because I had termites and I had to tent my house, And I've taken jobs like the Rat Movie because it was filming in Moscow and I'd always wanted to go to Russia. And so it just, whatever came along, if there was something about it, and I went back and did stage and, if there was something about it that caught me, then yes, I'm going to do it. I was offered a screenplay. I don't remember how many years ago this was. My agents called and said, we've got an offer for you to do this screenplay by, he's sort of a new director, but he has a big following as a musician. And he's written and he's directing this screenplay, and they sent it over to me, and I've read the first 20 pages, and I called my agency and I said, there's no way I'm doing this. It was a horror film. I said, there's no way. I would never do this. I'll never do this. And about a year and a half later, I was at a convention, an autograph signing convention. And Bill Moseley was there, and Bill and I had done Carnival together. And I went up to his table and he had a line of people waiting for his autograph that was going out the door and down the block, I said, Bill, this is fantastic. What movie, what are you signing? What's such a success? He said, oh, it's something I did called The Devil's Rejects. And that's the one that I had turned down. That was the Rob Zombie film.
Mm.
So it didn't have to do with the fact that it was a horror film. It had to do with the words on the page. And that was not one that I wanted to do. But I love doing them. I've got a short film out that I just did last year called Oddities, which I thought it was a great script and I liked the director's work. And so I agreed to do that one. And I just finished doing well, it's supposed to be a recurring role if the show comes back, on a Harlan Coben series for Amazon Prime called Shelter. It's a YA series. I'm sort of all over the map still, whatever comes along.
With all the directors that you had worked with, I want to talk about Creepshow, and that's only because, like I said earlier, it's one of my favorites. And it freaked me out as a kid. Yeah, I watched it as a kid, but then again, my uncle let me watch Cannibal Holocaust, and what a great uncle he is. But one thing I wanted to know is, of course, Stephen King and George A. Romero, two of horror's giants in the horror genre. Did you ever get to meet Stephen King, especially because he wrote the screenplay? Did you ever get to meet him and talk to him about
Yes.
But yeah, what was that like?
Well, when we all first arrived to do our segment, The Crate, George and his wife at the time, Chris Romero, who is also in Creepshow, had us over for dinner. So it was Tom Atkins and myself and Stephen and Ed Harris and his wife, Amy Madigan, and we were all there for dinner. So I spent that evening with Stephen. I was not on the set when he was doing his segment. I had already finished my work and come back to California because we shot everything in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, he was just great fun. He was, if I remember correctly, he was most interested in talking to Tommy Atkins about Jamie Lee Curtis and what it was like to work with Jamie Lee on The Fog, you know. And George, of course, became one of my closest friends. I mean, it's funny, when George passed, I didn't realize that he was, I think he was just my age or maybe even a year younger, because I always thought of George as my, I don't know, my daddy. I mean, you know, he just had that wonderful, he was like an old jazz musician, you know. I mean, a big teddy bear, and I loved him dearly, and I used to go and stay with him and his wife, and whenever I got a chance to see him, I try and see him. I really, really, really cared for him. Yeah.
What was the difference with George? It's a bit of a similar question with Bea Arthur. What was the difference between George A. Romero as the director and George A. Romero as the person? You know, I've heard, you know, with Robert England. I met Robert England in Cardiff a few years ago, and he's just the loveliest man I ever met. He was just so welcoming. He was like, oh my God, you didn't expect him to be like this. You wouldn't even thought that this man played Freddy Krueger, who just killed a lot of innocent kids in their dreams. It's like, hey, how's it going? You're just such a nice person. But was George? Well, obviously, you said he was close friend. So what was it like to work with George A. Romero, and also to be his friend, and also the differences as the director and as the person?
Well, I don't know that there were much differences as a director and a person. It was a fantastic director. And I truly, I owe him my performance with Billy, because when I first read the script, I wasn't even going to do the show. I mean, I didn't get it at all. I thought it was vile, and I just, you know. And then I called Tom Atkins, who'd already been cast. Tom was the father in the interstitials, you know. He played Stephen King's son's father, right? That was Joe Hill. And I said, Tommy, you're doing this? I mean, it's really, oh, it's gross, and it's this and it's that. He said, oh, God, you don't get it at all. It's a comedy. It's, you know, it's going to be very stylized. It's going to be it's like a cartoon. You've got to do it. Okay. So I showed up, and unlike the character, I've never been drunk. I don't know what that's like. I don't drink. I never have. I've never liked it. So, you know, George really guided me through that character, because up until that point, my approach to film acting was do less. You know, that's what I had learned from John Carpenter, was do less. Let the camera do it. It's not like stage. It's not, you know, where you're full out. But George just kept saying, no, no, you can be bigger. You can be bigger with Billy. And it was like, okay, well, he's the director. I'll trust him. And he knew what he was doing, because she's one of the roles that everybody remembers and loves. But he kept a very quiet set, just like John Carpenter. You know, it wasn't, and he knew what he wanted, and he knew how to communicate to get what he wanted. Both of them did, you know. They just, yeah. So there wasn't much, I mean, in terms of him being a wonderful, loving man, not much difference between him as a director and him as a wonderful, loving man.
What was it like working with Hal Holbrook on The Fog and on Creepshow?
But, you know, on The Fog, I never had any scenes with Hal. We were never, I don't even know if he was in Point Reyes when I was there, or if I was there when he was there. So I mean, you know, I met him, but we didn't have any scenes together, so I really didn't know him. But I just remember the first day he walked into the rehearsal hall for Creepshow, and he had on these really sexy cowboy boots. And he was just a nice guy. He was just a really, I've been very fortunate. I would think in my entire career, I've probably worked with maybe five people that I would never want to work with again, five or six people. But Hal and Fritz Weaver were both, they were just great. They're professional, they were giving, they were just, I don't have any enough superlatives.
Hmm. What about Kurt Russell?
Kurt, I already knew. Kurt, we were all family friends because John had directed Kurt in Elvis, which, if you haven't seen, I really suggest you see it. It was a 4-hour miniseries that John did for one of the television networks. And Kurt he's brilliant in it. I mean, John's work is brilliant. But so, you know, so I met Kurt when they were doing Elvis, and then we used to go out to dinner together and everything. So I knew Kurt. Kurt's just He's just a good old boy, We didn't share the same politics, you know, but he's just again, just show up, do the work, have a good time, and and a joy to work with.
It's like I forgot that you were also in, probably not physical in the film, but you were in The Thing,
The
and
thing.
you had the voiceover role or something.
Yes, checkmate. I'm the role of the computer. I was
Did
not on the set for that. I was
Yeah.
not up in Alaska.
Did John just turn to you and said, "Oh, can you just record this for me? Can you just do that for me?" Did he ever just
I don't remember. I mean, I assume that's how it happened. I don't really remember. I didn't even remember that I had done it until somebody else told me about it. And now lately, because the thing has become such a fan favorite all over again, I have people coming up to me with pictures of the computer when I sign my name, which I get a kick out of. I was a computer. There's two others that I have no recollection of. Judge Dredd and something with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, Demolition Man, was it?
Demolition Man? Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I guess I did computer voices in both of those too, but that, unless it was something like Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series, the other things are just, it's just an hour. You just get called and you go in and you record for an hour. And so I didn't even remember. I started getting residuals for something called Judge Dredd, and I thought, what is this? I don't even remember doing this, but I have since been told that I did.
Is there any project, whether it be television, theater, or film, that you look back and you are most proud of?
I'm very proud of my role in Carnival, Ruthie, the snake dancer. I'm I'm proud of Rizzo in Greece, creating that role. Um, I I get a big kick out of Billy in Creepshow, and and I love Stevie Wayne and Maggie in Escape from New York. I just did just a 5-minute scene in a stateside series called 911.
Mm.
Uh, and I really like that. I really like that character. And I did a Netflix series about 2 years ago, maybe three now, with RuPaul called AJ and the Queen. And again, it was just a guest role, but again, I really like that character. But most proud, I mean, I was very proud of Ruthie. I was very proud of Ruthie in Carnival. And then for a year in 2015 and 2016, um, I traveled with the National Company of Pippin. We got as far to Europe as Amsterdam, but we didn't get anywhere. Well, they went on to Japan, but I'd already been in Japan, so I didn't go. Um, but I was playing Pippin's grandmother, which involved hanging upside down from a trapeze 15 feet in the air and singing the song and doing a trapeze act without a net. And I was pretty proud of that at that age. You know,
It-
you can see that on YouTube.
Can you? Oh, I'm gonna look it up
Oh
now.
yeah,
That's gonna be on the
yeah.
notes now. Watch, watch, watch Adrienne Barbaeu hang from a just hang upside down singing.
Upside down while she's singing a song.
If there was a little tricky question for you, if you had if someone came up, if you had the choice that from now onwards that you had to stop either doing film work, film slash TV, we'll just count it as two in one. If you had to stop film and television or stop theatre and had to carry on with one or the other, which one would it be?
I'd stop theater. But it really comes down to more the specific role and the specific words, the specific project, you know. That's one of the reasons I took Pippin, because I just thought, you know, this is this is a role that you're not going to get, nobody gets to do very often, you know, especially at my age. Um, but I like doing film and television. I also I spend my days when I'm not doing film and television. I I do video captioning for the blind, which means read the I read the description of what's happening on screen in between the characters' dialogue. So that if you are visually impaired, you put your TV on the SAP channel and you're watching Evil is one of the shows that I do right now, or SWAT, or I'm trying to think of something that might be airing in Wales, SEAL Team, or you know all these American television shows or movies. A lot of the Blumhouse movies,
Mm.
you know, all of those things. And so the actors are acting, and then you'll hear my voice or someone's voice saying, he turns to her with a furrowed brow, or, you know, he picks up the knife and holds it in front of her face, you know, that kind of thing, describing what's happening in between. And I really enjoy doing that. I don't have to put on makeup. I don't have to memorize anything. I just go sit in the studio and do the recording. And I mean, I love doing, you know, I love doing Catwoman. I love doing Batman, the animated series, and but I do like film and television.
One of the last question for you, then, Adrian, is always the question I ask the guests, and that's how do you look back on your career?
I have been very fortunate in that I have been able to raise my family, support myself, live the life that I live, doing something where I feel like I've never worked a day in my life. That's how I look back on it. You know, I'm an actor. I'm not, you know, sometimes I've heard people say, I heard somebody came into my mailbox store the other day and he said something about, oh, this is where all those supposed actors leave the mail they don't want or something. And he left, and I thought, this is a profession. This is a job, just like everybody else's job. And, you know, there are people who I think only 5% of my union earns a living wage, every year. It's not something, certainly not something I ever did just because I wanted to be a celebrity or a star or something. This is what I know how to do. And to be able to do it and earn a living doing it, I'm very blessed. And that's how I look back on my career.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalised keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewellery, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewellery? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewellery Workshops. Vale Jewellery Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewellery. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248.